meeting to order. Alice, would you take the roll?
Chuck Beckman,
Present?
Ben Forrester, not present. Ellen Smith, not present. Emily Pratt,
Present.
Chris Jones,
Present.
Amy Palmer.
Present.
Next order, the approval of the minutes of the March 3rd, 2025 meeting. Everyone should have a copy of those. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes of our March 3rd, 2025 meeting as they are written and presented to us.
Is there a second?
Can I, since I wasn't there? I wasn't present.
I think you could make the second.
Okay, so I second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Any old business? I have none noted. None?
There is none, but to follow up from the last hearing we had, which was regarding the zoning hearing officer. The board did take into consideration the suggestions that came out of this committee. It is hard to make changes to the ordinance without setting everything back to public hearing, because anytime we make a change, we would then have to go through the public hearing. So the state's attorney reviewed the changes, and she has advised the county board to include those in their rules of procedure. And that will then give them the authority over that zoning hearing officer should they need to remove them for some reason, anything of that nature. So they did accept your comments, and while you won't see them in the ordinance, they are going to be in the board rules of procedure. That did go to the county board in March. Part of their rules of procedure is that when they're passing a text amendment, it must be held over for a month. So it laid over until April. Unfortunately, we do not have a zoning hearing officer hired as of yet. So they did table that for another month. We do hope to have someone in that position within the next month, and we hope that the county board will be able to vote on it this month.
Anything else under old business?
None.
Under new business, we have petition number 25 PC 79 by Lee County Zoning Administrator. Is there anyone to testify on that?
That would be me.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I do have a sign-in sheet over here that I have signed and will place in the file.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so tonight we're discussing the technology overlay district. I have sent you the proposed ordinance change, what the county is considering. So we just kind of want to go through how we got to this point, and what it means exactly. So we're finding out that Lee County has a lot of positive economic potential. We're learning that through the Rochelle site. We have a lot of unique resources considering the transmission lines that go through this county. And what we're finding is in order for Lee County to be more competitive in the economic portion, if we make changes and set up our ordinance, it makes us more appealing to industry, because we are basically stating that, yes, we want to see this industry come to our area, and this is how we would like to see it happen. Now, that's a big hurdle for a lot of industries. They want to know that they're not going to have to go through a bunch of red tape and things like that. So specifically, a couple of years ago, over in the Rochelle Enterprise Zone, we went ahead, the county went ahead and rezoned a number of the parcels to I3 in anticipation of the industry that we expect to come to that area. This is a similar action that the county is taking. While we have nothing on the horizon as far as a use within a technology district, we are hopeful that we can maybe attract this type of industry. So what we have done, we have consulted with other counties and municipalities. We have looked at what the industry requires. We've researched this to see what is going to work for Lee County and what won't. And what we have drafted is what we feel is going to protect Lee County's resources and yet still allow these industries to come in as least disruption as possible. What the technology overlay district is similar to a special use. So a special use is a permit that the county issues in a district where a use is not typical. So the best example I can give you right now that we're currently seeing is solar. So this use is allowed on agricultural land, and depending on who you ask, it may or may not be considered an agricultural use. Some see it more as commercial. But the county recognizes that this use can work in agricultural districts. And so we have created a code that allows this industry to come in under certain terms. And so long as they do so, we give them the special use permit that most of the time has conditions under which they must operate, specific to their project. So this technology overlay district is going to act just like a special use. It more or less is. They are going to have to come into the county. The underlying district won't change. So what this ordinance is saying that will allow it to come in on ag parcels and industrial parcels. But it must have this technology overlay district overlay. It can't just come in as a permitted use. You must first get this TOD overlay. That is essentially the special use permit. So then we'll have a public hearing. They will have to present their project to the county, what they're proposing. We will have to confirm that it is in compliance with what we are requiring. And then specific to that project, where it's located, what technologies it's using, the county will have the ability then to assign conditions specific to that project that are enforceable, that might be above and beyond what is in the code, but will address a specific need of a project. So that is how we have arrived at where we are today. I'm not going to go through it page by page. Unless someone has a specific question, I want to turn it over to you guys for question and discussion.
Anybody have questions for Alice?
Since it's an overlay, it does not make a change to any current zoning that it is there right now. That will not change in the way things are taxed, doesn't change. It just opens the door if somebody wants a special permit for that type of use, correct?
So nothing changes until a company comes in and wants to petition.
Okay,
And then we start that process.
okay. I just want to make sure I was understanding.
Yes, everything stays the same right now, but we have language in our code that signals to industry that we've considered this, we've made arrangements for it to come in, and this is what we're requiring.
Okay, thank you.
Alice, first I want to thank you for the hard work in putting this together. This is certainly new territory for a lot of counties. The data centers that the tech world needs are very unique. And if you look at the situation in DeKalb, that's a huge building, requires constant air conditioning. It uses a ton of water daily. I don't know about this one in particular, but there are some who use up to 300,000 gallons a day to cool what they need to cool. And I just think that the county needs to look into that as these potential special uses come, because that's a ton of water coming out of somewhere.
Yes, and you are correct. This TOD would allow multiple uses, but data centers is kind of the hot topic right now. And data centers are a huge energy suck and a huge water suck. So we need to have both of those resources available in order for them to come in. Now with the water, the alternative to drawing fresh water is that they can have chemical cooling systems. Now, there's some negativities with that as well. But under this code, both options would be allowed at this time. Ben Forster was not able to make it here tonight. I did have the ability to talk to him briefly about this. One of his, that was also a concern that he brought up is the water and the energy draw. Now, a lot of these data centers in particular are looking to pair up with renewables, whether it be solar or wind. We have a number of projects in the county that could possibly offset some of their energy that they're using. With the water, though, that's going to depend on the area that that's located in, what's available in that area, and at this time, I believe the studies are required to look into what resources are available as far as water, but that's kind of the limit at this time. But being that it is an overlay, we would have the ability to look at that specific issue during the public hearing and then set conditions specific to that. So if they were trying to come into an area that might not have adequate water resources, that could be a condition of their permit, is that they would have to use a chemical, cooling system. But Ben, one of his suggestions is he suggested during times of flood, when there is excess water, somehow collecting that flood water and storing it in retention ponds for their use. Now, the amount of water that they need, it's obviously not going to be able to be adequate for everything that they need, but it is an idea for offsetting what they are using.
I don't see any cameras going or TV screens. I'm assuming we have nobody available by Zoom. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I haven't read the whole thing, but is there anything in here about light pollution?
Light pollution, yes, everything will have to be shielded and downcast.
Thank you.
Yes.
I figured you knew. I could ask you faster than.
Yeah, and that is one of the concerns. These are typically in very rural areas. So a lot of light would cause a lot of light pollution in areas where people don't want it. So yes.
Okay, thank you for answering the question.
You're going to tell me to look at page number?
No, no,
Any other questions for Alice or comment from anybody on the board?
You said something about solar panels earlier.
Mhm.
Can a company come into Lee County and use this permit to set up solar panels as a technology, or they would have to continue to use the current special use permits for solar panels?
So how it works is that, yes, solar could be a use within this district. So if you go to the definitions on page 9 and you go to utility service major, this actually is regarding commercial solar energy facilities, and it does direct them to our ordinance on solar. So if this was the use that they were looking to bring in, they would have to come into compliance with our solar ordinance,
Mhm.
in addition to getting the overlay for the technology district, if it wasn't already established.
Okay, and this is just a general question because data centers are just ginormous buildings and they do have a lot of roof space. If a company were to build a data center with a solar panel farm on top, would they have to get 2 special use permits or just 1?
It would actually be 2 separate
2
permits.
separate?
I would want to keep them separate because that way, if there is an issue with one use or the other, we can address it without
Right.
impacting the other.
Okay, that was just the question.
Yep.
Is it the intent, if approved by the commission, it goes right to the county board, or does it need to sit over?
So this body would be making a recommendation to the county board whether to approve or deny. They would receive that this month. And then on the 22nd, if the motion was to approve, and that's what the county board wishes to do, they would make that motion on the 22nd and hold it over till the June meeting. And approval would not take place until June.
Okay. Anybody want to entertain a motion to approve?
I move to approve the text amendment that was presented here today in regard to petition number 25PC79.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Not? You want a roll call vote or,
I can do that.
okay?
Amy Palmer,
Approve.
Chris Jones,
Aye.
Emily Pratt,
Aye.
Chuck Beckman.
Aye. Motion carried.
I will send this to the county board this month then with your recommendation for approval. I will also make sure to include the comments about the water concerns.
Okay, good. Any other business to come before us?
I have none.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I second.